Hope everyone is staying safe and well where you are, and that summertime has started to creep in. Here in Ireland, we tend to think that summer starts on the 1st of May, and the weather has not been letting us down thus far, so fingers crossed, long may it continue. So today I'm going to look at a few tools that you can use to perhaps motivate you to contribute images or other media to Wikipedia and Wikimedia Commons and Wikidata to help improve photographing and other representation of sites and places of interest in your local area. So in Ireland, as of this week, we're now allowed to exercise up to 5 kilometres away from our homes, which means that you'll be out and about with your camera phone or with a more advanced camera, and you can take photographs of some of the sites that you can encounter and perhaps discover a little bit more of the built or natural heritage in your very local area. And how do you go about doing that? How can you find perhaps the gaps that are on Wikipedia and other Wikimedia sites? And there's one really simple and easy tool that you can use, and it's called WikiShootMe. So fans of the 90s show Just Shoot Me will appreciate that. So all you have to do is just Google WikiShootMe, and we're going to use not the original version of the tool, but the second version. So it's this one here. It turns up as my second version, so you can see in the URL it says WSM2 as opposed to original. So if I open that up, it will ask you if you want to supply your location data, but I'm not going to tell you exactly where my house is, so I have denied the geolocation for the moment. But what you can also do is that you can base, rather than using your geolocation, you can use a Wikidata item, so something that has a GPS location, and calculate a radius from that, or using an article. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use, we're going to return back to our old friend Ballybox Cemetery, which is just up the road from me. And I'm going to go to the Wikidata item, and I'm going to copy the queue number. I'm going to pop it into WikiShootMe. It might take a second or two for it to calculate. And I'm going to say that I want a radius. The default is usually 10, but I'm going to say a radius of 5 kilometers out from this. I'm going to say find items without images. It'll probably take a few minutes. Oh, no, it's much quicker. It's a little bit slower earlier, so it's sped up. And what it does is it queries Wikidata items that are flagged as not having an image. They don't have an image associated with them. So I've had a quick look at this list earlier. You can see it's taking a little while to draw all the data from Wikidata. And you'll kind of get a mix of Wikidata objects, and some of which I suppose are a little bit more difficult to perhaps conceptualize as a photograph. An awful lot of these are electoral districts, so somewhat challenging perhaps to take a photograph of an electoral area. But what you could do is take a representative image of the area, specifically where I suppose the geolocation tag has been placed. I suppose a more representative image would perhaps be an aerial image if there was such a one, but then you'd have to calculate the boundaries of it. So some of them are, I suppose, a little bit less tangible than others. It's taking a few seconds for it to load. You can see other ones are educational institutions, the main offices of particular charities or companies. Some of them are just, as you can see, streets. So Gardner Street doesn't have an image at the moment. Others are, as you can see, we have the National College of Ireland here. The Coroner's Court, interestingly, doesn't seem to have an image at the moment, which seems kind of surprising to me. Others are going to be more difficult. So I know from a fact, though, here the Oblana Theatre, that's actually a historical theatre. It still exists within Bucharest, but it's not readily accessible. So some of these are going to be historical buildings that perhaps there is no trace of them on the physical site anymore. So ideally, you'd be trying to find maybe an archival image of something, or perhaps what the site looks like now, and that would be a representation of it. I really wish the locations would, the descriptions would load for me. That would make life so much easier. I will leave this for a second and see if those descriptions will load, because I can see now it's nudged over. It's going to be loading a little bit more. what I've noticed in this is that this is actually quite a nice prompt to do some editing on Wikidata items to manually update them as well. There is another way of finding, I suppose, a less granular way of finding articles on Wikipedia, on English Wikipedia in particular, that are flagged as needing, they're manually tagged as needing an image in the article as opposed to the Wikidata item. And for that, we go back to our friendly Wiki Project Ireland, because if you're not based in Ireland, you could look at the Wiki project for your locality, your country. And if we scroll down, you can see articles that have been tagged with templates is the subsection that we want, and it's the request a photo is what we're interested in. So you can see that adding this template to the talk page of a Wikipedia article tags it as being an article with an image request. And these are kind of broken down perhaps into more granular subcategories. So there's a few. So there's no image of Drasheen if there's anybody in Cork that wants to oblige. There's an awful lot of obviously images of people requested. An awful lot of those would be celebrities for which there may not be images under an open license that can be used, unfortunately. And you can see it's also broken down for. So if we go to image request for Republic of Ireland, we'll get county by county request. Some of them, again, if we take a look, say County Kilkenny, some of them, a lot of them are places, and they're GA grounds and GA buildings, that kind of thing, bridges. There's also the national monuments. Some of those will be in there, but some of them are less, I suppose, are more less places and more things. So like the Cat Laughs festival there, and also things that are perhaps a little bit more difficult or less inspiring to take a photograph of, like the N29, not exactly the most exciting photograph. So if we take a look, what I've noticed is a good few years ago I went through this list for images requested in Dublin and took quite a few photographs of them, and I think somebody has weeded this list since, because there's quite a number of these have been removed as having image requests. Some of them were proposed sites for Lewis stops and Metro stops, so really there was no way of getting an image for that unless the building is actually built. So it's kind of an aspirational wanting a photograph. But if we take a look at, say, County Dublin, which goes a little bit further out, okay, so an awful lot of them are not tagged as Dublin City, they're tagged as Dublin County. That's interesting. So you could see here we're getting an awful lot of more railway stations, schools, equally, say, like the Bloom Festival there. And I know I uploaded some photographs of the Bloom Festival, so we could possibly add a photograph to that, no problem. Some of them you can see Kingstown Lifeboat disaster. That's quite a big ask to get a photograph for something like that. So some are definitely going to be harder than others. There's another one. If anybody's interested in a kind of a strange quirk of Irish history, there was the swastika laundry for a very long time. But again, that's going to be a historical photograph. So unless the National Library of Ireland or somebody who took a photograph at the time in the 1960s releases that image under an open license or uploads it themselves, it's going to be very difficult to find an image for that. Again, here, the Museum of Irish Industry, that's a defunct museum. So you can see some of these are going to be much easier asks than others, and you can see we have Gardner Street is tagged, so Gardner Street has appeared here, and if we go back to WikiShootMe, I think Gardner Street was also here as well. So you can see now, if we go back to WikiShootMe, the descriptions of all of them have appeared for us now. So you can see in very close proximity to me, I could definitely take a photograph of the North Strand Road. Hospitals, they're a little bit of a difficult one in that a hospital ground is usually private property. So taking a photograph on hospital grounds can perhaps be a little bit fraught. But I could definitely take a photograph of the beginning of the grounds of the hospital, and so that the gates before you get to the hospital proper. At the moment, you know, kind of with common sense, a bit like with courtyards, with schools, you probably wouldn't go over and take photographs of schools while they're in session, just for, you know, kind of common sense, taking photographs of children and uploading them to Commons. But of course, at the moment, all schools are empty, so it's a perfect time. It's like the summer holidays. It's a perfect time to take a photograph of a school, because you're not going to run into any of those issues of privacy and that kind of thing. And I've noticed an awful lot of schools in Ireland in general, and quite a number of them would Elements of them would be historic buildings. So now would really be a great time to take photographs of them. And when we run Wiki Loves Monuments in September, if you take the photographs now, you could wait and upload them in September, and they could be included within that project there. Other things are probably going to be, Croke Park isn't open at the moment, so I can't go in and take a photograph of Hill 16. Again, we have more schools. Okay, not going to be able to take a photograph of the 2009 Ireland Senior Football Championship. Unfortunately, I cannot travel through time, not yet. I could go look for Drumcondra Castle though. That sounds interesting. As you can see, we're seeing a mix of organizations, locations, but what's interesting here is that some things are coming up as saying cannot auto-describe. So we're going to open a few of these and you'll see how this means. It's kind of an interesting prompt for us to maybe make a few edits to these Wikidata items and see if we can improve them a little bit. See if we can find a third one. Abbey School of Music and Drama. Glasnevin National School. So we see what this means as to why a lot of description isn't being prompted for. So we'll go to Seomra Spree first. So Seomra Spree, I think is now defunct. I'm pretty sure. It was a kind of communal space. So you can see this is the Wikimedia project, and actually somebody has uploaded a photograph of it, so we could. So how do we go about improving the Wikidata items so that it's more so we get an auto-describe, so when somebody looks it up on WikiShootMe or another Wikimedia query, that you get a better description of what the place is. And also if we know we can find an image on Wikimedia Commons, how do we then link it to a Wikidata item? So Seomra Spree, at the moment, we literally have the name and a geolocation and a link to the Wikipedia article. That is it. Okay, so we can definitely make this better. So we say, okay, so it's an autonomous social centre in Dublin. So we press edit here. I'm going to add the description. A former, because it's closed. It's no longer open. There we go. So now we have a little description turning up here. So the reason that we're getting the cannot generate a description is that the only statement associated with this entry on Seomra Spree is its geolocation. It says absolutely nothing else about it. So it can't generate. So if we look in kind of contrast, if we look at Chartered Accountants Ireland, why not? And if we scroll down through this, you can see it's saying it's an instance of an organisation. So therefore, this is able to tag it as being an organisation as opposed to a place or a historic event or something like that. So if we go back to Seomra Spree for a second, I'm going to add statement. It is an instance of. Now, how best to describe it? It's an anti-capitalist commune. It was probably, it was in a. Was it a community centre? Is that the best way of describing it? Sometimes there's a little bit of finding out whether or not the description that you're thinking of does have a Wikidata identifier. So when you type in here, it's searching the database of Wikidata items that are pertinent to the instance of, so can be filled into this field, and are kind of already exist. So it won't allow you to just type. It's not a free type field. You can't just write in whatever you like. It has to be from these kind of pre-filled. Something that already exists as another queue number, basically. So I'm going to put in community centre because I think that's one of the better descriptions of it. I can add another statement. So it's in the country, or it was in the country of Ireland. So we'll get a few choices for Ireland because Ireland has existed as a different state over time. So we'll get kind of current Ireland, which says sovereign state in Northwest Europe. There's also the island of Ireland, so if something happened, I suppose, pre-1801, you might describe it as coming from the island of Ireland. There's also the Irish Republic as it existed between 1919 and 1922. There's Ireland as part of the United Kingdom from 1801 to 1922. So there's a few different, and I think if we were to put in Free State, we'd probably get a different one again. Irish Free State. So depending on, you can get quite granular. There you go, you can Irish Free State there as well. So you can get very specific. And obviously that's quite important because countries have not existed as static things across time. So I mean, this was from recent times, so it's Ireland as a sovereign state. The administrative area of Dublin, it's the capital city. And we'll say image. So we have an image of the space at some point in time. So it's beer cans and glass bottles. So this appears to be kind of one of the communal areas. What we can see is if we look at more details, what is this tagged as, this image? So Dublin City Council's waste. Has this person added any other photographs? No, that is it. So in this case, I'm actually not going to add that image now. You know, Shomer no longer exists. So the likelihood of getting a photograph, but if you were out there, if you attended any events in Shomer or anything like that, and you have historical photographs of it, Wikimedia Commons could do with that. So I can't add an image to this one, but we have definitely improved the entry. Now we'll move on to the next one. So Great Denmark Street. Again, we have a Wikipedia article that we can look up, see if we do have some images associated with it. Belvedere College, excellent. So again, this doesn't have any great detail to it, so it's a street in Dublin, Ireland. Add that. And we can add instance of street. That's in Ireland. And this means that now these Wikidata items, if people are doing Sparkle queries that are specifically saying, I want to see all of the Wikidata items that are linked, that are stated to be streets within Dublin without photographs, means that this would come up. So, a picture of a wall plaque from Great Denmark Street. Do we have, is there a commons category for this? What we can do is, let's search commons and see if Great Denmark Street comes up on anything else. Okay, so we have Barry's Hotel. It's a little bit bigger. Something within a cathedral. So we don't have a picture of the street as a whole. So for the moment, I will leave that without an image. But again, we've improved the Wikidata item, which is satisfactory for me. Now, Abbey School of Music and Drama. So we don't have a Wikipedia article for this. So more than likely, we're not going to be able to find an image for it. If we do a quick Google, if we go to images and see, if we go to tools, usage rights, no, it doesn't look like there are any images of the building that we're looking for. But again, what we can do is add so in some ways these are really intuitive edits to make. Like, you're not having to go off and do huge amounts of let's see if the music school comes up. Institution specializing in music education, perfect. And see. So with instances of this, so if it's a building or a place that has multiple functions or multiple ways of describing it. So within instance of, I can add another value. I'm going to add drama. See if that's a drama school. Add that. So now it is both. It's an instance of both. and it's capturing all that it is. So we'll say that it is in Ireland again. We don't have, and again, it's in Dublin. Now my final one, so Glasnevin National School. So this has, again, a Wikipedia article. So let's see if it has an image. So it's redirected to the article on Glasnevin. So not for the actual school. And that architect I was talking about the other day, Liam McCormack, this is the famous Marion Headquarters that he designed. So it all comes back around, doesn't it? Now, so we don't have an image of the school. That is rather annoying. But again, we can add primary school in Glasnevin, Dublin, Ireland. So it's an instance of the school. So because obviously we're dealing with objects that are all roughly, they're all broadly physical locations. So it's quite repetitive, the steps that we're taking here. But again, it means that you can quite quickly kind of buzz through quite a number of edits because you're not having to kind of figure it out over and over again. Do we have another one? Let's go to have a not describe. Clontarf Parish. And we'll go for St. Mary del Dam. Now, St. Mary del Dam, what are you when you're at home? Let's find out. So it is a former parish church. So it being a former parish church, if it doesn't exist anymore, this church it stood, but Dublin Merchants Exchange the site petitioned. Yes, so again, this is a historical building, in that it doesn't seem to exist anymore. So as you can see, it's not entirely straightforward, perhaps. You do have to interrogate the list a little bit for yourself. So it's a church, so we'll say it's a Christian. There's no historical image of that. After Dame Street was named, that's quite interesting. And also interesting to know that my 5 kilometres extends to Dame Street, which I didn't expect it. My conception of distances is quite poor. Is what I've learned. Excellent. So, Clontarf Parish, and this is Parish Church. Excellent. So we can possibly add. So it's the seat of the parish. So it is a Church of Ireland parish in Clontarf, Dublin. It's an instance of a parish, the ecclesiastical subdivision in Ireland. No. What we can do now is add an image of, so this is the parish church for the parish. So take a look at this photograph. This photograph is just on Wikipedia. It is a candidate. So this is an unusual example of how photographs can be hosted directly on Wikipedia. As we've discussed with Wikimedia Commons, Images are generally, they have to be your own images, or ones that you can assert definitely that they're in the public domain, or they're on Flickr, published under an appropriate license. We can import them in like we demonstrated in the last session. But for things for which you're just using them for illustrative use and they fall under copyright, so book covers, album covers, logos, that kind of thing, for which they are never going to be under an open license, or not anytime soon. What you can do is upload an image directly to Wikipedia for it to be used for illustrative purposes. And it's it's an American use of copyright. It's fair usage, which isn't universal. And how you go about it is, you can see here, we're still on Wikipedia, we're not on Wikimedia Commons. We have an upload file, and it's quite convoluted. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. We'll probably do a session exclusively on it, but unfortunately this image, it's probably been up here for quite some time. Yeah, 2007. So it's a historical image that was published directly to Wikipedia rather than Wikimedia Commons, unfortunately. So we can see, actually, if we just take a look again, it's on Wikipedia as opposed to, but maybe if we search for, what is it, St. John the Baptist? Well, of course I can just go off and take photographs of this place, can't I? Such is the point of the demonstration, Rebecca. So if I can't find an image of it, this is the first one on my list, isn't it? Of course, there's going to be loads of churches called St. John the Baptist, aren't there? Yes. Let's see if Clontarf gives us any joy. No. So that's definitely going to have to stay on my list. I was trying to find, to show you how to add an image to a Wikidata item. Hallelujah, this is how you do it. Okay, so now we have Dame Lane, our last example. So it's a road in Dublin. I'd actually say it's a street, but anyway. And I'm going to add a few of these. So we'll say it's an instance of a street. Actually, it's an instance of a lane. Strictly. It's a narrow road. Yeah, there you go. Country Ireland. It is in Dublin. And now, so this is quite an illustrative image of Dame Lane. That's brilliant. I'm going to go to more details, which brings me to Commons. And what I do is I'm just going to copy the file name without the file colon, and I'm going to add a new statement. I'm going to, so it comes up as it may not always come up for you as a suggestion, but generally based on the other statements that you've associated with an article, it'll kind of prompt you to say, okay, these are the other ones that are generally filled for objects with the same statements associated with them. So how far above sea level it is, if it has a heritage designation, also other types of IDs. So, but what I'm going to do is add an image, and in this little box I'm going to put in the file name, and you can see it kind of shows it to me as something that's kind of saying, yes, we found that. So I'm going to click on it, I'm going to say publish. And now there is an image associated with it. So this will now disappear from the WikiShootMe list, because it is now officially has an image associated with it. So sometimes you can do an awful lot of work without actually going outside your 5 kilometers. So if you're really interested in somewhere that you can't get to at the moment, but you still want to work on Wikidata items associated with it, you can, program WikiShootMe to look at your hometown. I could put that in for Carlo and go through all the Wikidata items associated with my old hometown and improve those Wikidata items and nibble away at the list of Wikidata items that are saying they don't have an image associated with them, because nobody's just kind of closed the gap and put the two of them together. I don't think there is a category. There is a category. Okay. So there's actually a category for Dame Lane. So it's only got 3 images in it, but I can now associate the category with the Wikidata item. So there's 2 ways that we do that. So I'm going to add a statement, and if I put in Commons category, and I put in just Dame Lane, so without the category colon, pop that in there. And then we're going to also create an interwiki link. So You can see that it's linking to the Wikipedia article. There's only an English version of it. If it had associations on the other wiki sites, we would do that, but it's another site, which is Commons. So I put in CO, probably to put in Commons, and then we pop this in here, category Dame Lane, publish. And what this means is that over here, we can now add, I'm going to forget how to do this now. Let me take a quick look at, does this have, no, this does not have a category. One that I was looking at earlier, Jemison Chimney. This is one that I worked on earlier, one that I made earlier. So I created the category for this earlier because it didn't have one. So if you've ever been a tourist in Dublin, this is definitely probably one of the places you've been. Yes, it's just Wikidata info box, that's all I want. I want to add that here. And what that means is, I'm going to say added Wikidata info box. If I publish changes, I now get this nice little box on the right hand side. So the image is reflected, but also the geolocation and any other identifiers pointing to the Wikipedia article on it. So that's, again, so by just going through the WikiShootMe list, I found quite a nice cluster of little edits that I can make on Wikidata to improve those. We're going to leave it at that for today, but seeing as all you guys are out there, you know, in the internet fugue, and you might be doing your first few edits, and you know, maybe it's not the most exciting thing to do by yourself, but you're finding it rewarding. We want to reward you for any work that you've been doing. So if you're on Twitter, send this account a direct message if you would like to get some swag. So we have, because usually we'd be doing in-person events where, you know, people would come along, we teach them how to edit Wikipedia and we can give them some swag. But obviously we're not seeing those people at the moment. So we have big piles of things that we can't give away, but we would like to send them to people who are making edits to Wikipedia for the first time, or maybe picking up where they left off, or doing some edits that they haven't done in a very long time, or experimenting with new types of editing that they've never done. So you don't have to be in Ireland to ask for some swag, but we have pens. We have a selection of badges, both in Irish and in English. I'm going to post some photographs of the badges. So they say things like, I made the internet better today, I made the internet less sexist today, and I have those in Irish as well. We also have a little selection of stickers associated with his Bralum Vic page. We have our little mascot, which is Aineen, and just the bog standard, you know, logo as everybody has. So send our account a DM. DMs are open. You don't have to follow us. And if you would like to receive some physical swag, let me know. But equally, and send me a link to your username on Wikipedia. So even if you don't want to get something in the post, I can leave you a Barnstar or another thank you. I can send you some kittens or some cookies for the work that you've been doing. But we'd really like to hear from people who are trying editing for the first time to see how you're getting on. And equally, if you're struggling, if you need help, let us know, and we can try and perhaps do some of that work on a future stream to answer some of your queries. If you're not on Twitter, wikimediaireland@gmail.com. Simple as that. Just send us a message, either if there's an address you want to send some items to with a link to your user profile so that we can see what you're editing and see if we can help you out at all. So on that note, I will see you soon. Take care, and enjoy the sunshine if you have it where you are. Bye.